historic moment, a historic handshake, if you please. Thank you.
President, you can discuss it with the President. Minister of Defense, it's all impossible.
Yeah, we have some more time.
Yes, I debated for what he's a really remarkable person.
They're really friends.
Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Defense and Security Advisor Roman Masha is legitimate, sir. Very honest. I'm glad. Let's move on. Press set. Okay, we're good whenever you are.
Thank you very much, press. Morning to everybody. Today we host President Biden. That is so important signal for us, and all we are proud of it. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. President. That is a huge moment of supporting of the Ukraine. And what can I say? I really appreciate that President Biden, American society, been from the very beginning of this tragedy, from the very beginning of this full-scale war, from the first days being together with us. First phone call of supporting was from White House to Ukraine. And thank you for your leadership. Thanks bipartisan support. Thanks Congress. I think that is historical moment for our country, and very important. Today we'll speak detail about the situation on the battlefield. But I think almost we'll speak about people, about Ukrainians, about Americans. I think that is huge and so difficult period for societies, and what we have to do to stop the war, to have success in this war, to make Ukraine more stronger, and how to win this year. You're very welcome, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Presumptuous of me to say this, but I thought it was important that the President of the United States be here the day the attack began. Because as the President remember, I was warning the world that he was going to attack. I was certain of it. And I thought it was critical that there not be any doubt, none whatsoever, about U.S. support for Ukraine in their war against the brutal attack by Russia. Now, it's good to be back in Kiev. I was telling the President, one of my newer staff members on the flight from Washington into Poland asked me how many times I've been to Kiev. And I had to stop and think, it's my 8th trip. And much has changed. Much of it bad with the invasion, but also the Ukrainian people have stepped up in a way that few people ever have in their defense, and have apparently also embraced the notions of democracy. No longer discussions about whether or not certain privileged people have control. And and I bring greetings and goodwill from a member of Congress who had a very good impression, as you know, when you spoke there last. And for all the disagreement we have in our Congress on some issues, there is significant agreement on support for Ukraine. Because this is so much larger than just Ukraine. It's about freedom and democracy in Europe. It's about freedom and democracy writ large. And all the American people, I know that
відносин між нашими державами. Я хочу подякувати особисто пану президенту Байдену, усій його команді Конгресу Сполучених Штатів, усім американцям і дякую за досягнуту потужність українсько-американської співпраці. Шановні присутні, на цьому тижні вже рік нашої незламності і нашої боротьби проти російської агресії. І дуже символічно, що ми зміцнюємо нашу стійкість двома зустрічами з паном президентом, моїм візитом і нашою командою у Вашингтон в грудні та візитом президента і його команди в Київ сьогодні, зараз. Результати цих візитів, безумовно, будуть відчутними на полі бою, у посиленні наших воїнів та у звільненні наших територій. Рішення Сполучених Штатів щодо Абрамсів для України вже заклало таку основу для танкової коаліції, і історично важливим є наш прогрес в питаннях щодо протиповітряної оборони, і це Петріот, і для захисту наших міст. Це дійсно фундаментальне посилення. Проговорили питання сьогодні також ми далекобійної зброї та зброї, яка ще може постачатись в Україну, і до цього її не було. І це дуже важливо. Пане президенте, я знаю, що очікується потужний пакет оборонної підтримки для України. І саме зараз такий вагомий пакет є однозначним сигналом, що у російських спроб реваншу не буде шансів. І ми разом захистимо наші українські міста, наших людей від терору Росії і потужно зміцнимо імпульс до нашої перемоги. І сьогодні ми ще раз зафіксували, що маємо спільне бачення щодо подальшого розвитку подій і перспектив у цій війні. Ми скоординували подальший тиск на державу-терориста, працюємо разом з посиленням санкцій, і як на двосторонньому рівні, так і в рамках Групи 7. Це також дуже важливо. Фактично маємо спільний погляд на зміст багатьох пунктів нашої формули миру, її безпекові елементи, завдання відновити повну силу статуту ООН і захистити міжнародний порядок, заснований на правах. Це спільне завдання, я впевнений, усіх країн, які зацікавлені в міжнародній безпеці. Вкрай важливим є питання відновлення справедливості і для усіх тих, хто постраждав від російського терору, від цієї агресії, від цієї війни, і для нашої держави загалом. Агресор повинен понести відповідальність за агресію та відшкодувати всі збитки. Я дякую президенту за підтримку нашої роботи щодо відновлення справедливості, зокрема в роботі всіх наших інституцій в цьому напрямку. І ми вважаємо, на нашу думку, звичайно, немає альтернативи із створенню спеціального трибуналу. Це позиція України, ми будемо підтримувати цю позицію. А вже ж я дуже хотів би, щоб Сполучені Штати Америки були залучені до реалізації нашої формули миру, і це залучення означатиме посилення глобальної стабільності в передбачуваності міжнародних відносин. І ми маємо напрацювання на цьому шляху. І вже цього тижня в Нью-Йорку спільно зі Сполученими Штатами Америки майже 60 іншими державами ми виносимо на розгляд Генасамблеї ООН проект резолюції на підтримку миру в Україні. І напередодні 24 лютого затвердження цієї резолюції стане найкращим свідченням, потужним свідченням того, що терористична сила ніколи не зламає цивілізоване право. І ще одне. Я вважаю теж історично, сьогодні на Алеї Сміливості у Києві ми відкриваємо табличку, присвячену пану президенту Байдену. Перший дзвінок вночі 24 лютого минулого року. Наші переговори, постійна, незмінна, потужна увага нашій боротьбі і дійсно увага захисту української демократії, а також особистий внесок пана президента Байдена у зміцнення позиції свободи у світі. Це те, що завжди буде в історії, назавжди залишиться. Україна вдячна вам, Пане президенте, Україна вдячна Сполученим Штатам Америки, усім американцям в усіх містах і громадах, які цінують свободу так само, як цінуємо її ми. Слава нашим воїнам, слава нашим союзникам, слава Україні!
Statement by the President of the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You know, it was 1 year ago this week that we spoke on the telephone, Mr. President. It was very late at night in Washington, very early in the morning here in Kiev. Russian planes were in the air and tanks were rolling across your border. You told me that you could hear the explosions in the background. I'll never forget that. And the world was about to change. I remember it vividly. Because I asked you next, I asked you, what is there, Mr. President? What can I do for you? How can I be of help? And I don't know if you remember what you said to me, but you said, and I quote, gather the leaders of the world, ask them to support Ukraine. Gather the leaders of the world and ask them to support Ukraine. And you said that you didn't know when we'd be able to speak again. That dark night, 1 year ago, the world was literally at the time bracing for the fall of Kiev. Seems like a lot longer ago than a year, but think back to that year. Perhaps even the end of Ukraine. You know, 1 year later, Kiev stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you. Kiev has captured a part of my heart, I must say. I've come here 6 times as vice president, once as president, and in 2009 as vice president when I first came here. Then back in 2014, I came 3 times in the aftermath of the Revolution of Dignity. And I again came in 2015 to address the Rada about the work of building a strong democracy. And I came in 2017, just before I left office as vice president. I knew I'd be back, but I wanted to be sure. Even though the election were over, Barack and I were out of office, I decided to make one more trip before the next president was sworn in to Kiev. So President Zelensky, you deeply honor me here in Kiev with you today, to meet with your military, your intelligence folks, your diplomatic teams, community leaders who have stepped up and helped their country in their hour of need. It's astounding who stood up. Everybody. Everybody. Women, young children, trying to do something, just trying to do something. Pulling people out of apartments and being shelled and literally, I think, is war crimes. It's astounding. And the whole world sees it and looks at it. This is the largest land war in Europe in 3/4 of a century. And you're succeeding against all and every expectation except your own. We have every confidence that you're going to continue to prevail. You know, from the moment I first received an intelligence report in the fall, about a year ago, we were focused on determining how do we rally the rest of the world. How do I help you with the promise you asked me to make, to rally the world? Well, how do you succeed? How do you get a world to respond to a prosperous economy, a confident democracy, a secure and independent state? when United Americans of all political backgrounds decided that they would step up. American people know it matters. Unchecked aggression is a threat to all of us. We built a coalition of nations from the Atlantic to the Pacific, NATO in the Atlantic, Japan in the Pacific, I mean, across the world. The number of nations stood up over 50. To help Ukraine defend itself with unprecedented military, economic, and humanitarian support. We united the leading economies of the world to impose unprecedented costs that are squeezing Russia's economic lifelines. Together, we've committed nearly 700 tanks and thousands of armored vehicles, 1,000 artillery systems, more than 2 million rounds of artillery ammunition, more than 50 advanced launch rocket systems, anti-ship and air defense systems, all defend Ukraine, and that doesn't count the other $500 million we're announcing with you today and tomorrow. That's going to be coming your way. And that's just the United States in this piece. And just today, that announcement includes artillery ammunition for HIMARS and howitzers, more javelins, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars to help protect Ukrainian people from aerial bombardments. Later this week, we will announce additional sanctions against elites and companies that are trying to evade sanctions and backfill Russia's war machine. And thanks to bipartisan support in Congress, this week we are delivering billions in direct budgetary support. Billions in direct budgetary support, which the government can put to use immediately and help provide for basic services of citizens. The cost that Ukraine has had to bear has been extraordinarily high, and the sacrifices have been far too great. They've been met, but they've been far too great. We mourn alongside the families of those who've been lost to the brutal and unjust war. We know that there'll be very difficult days and weeks and years ahead. But Russia's aim was to wipe Ukraine off the map. Putin's war of conquest is failing. Russia's military has lost half its territory it once occupied. Young, talented Russians are fleeing by the tens of thousands, not wanting to come back to Russia. Not just fleeing from the military, fleeing from Russia itself, because they see no future in their country. Russia's economy is now a backwater, isolated and struggling. Putin thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. As you know, Mr. President, I said to you in the beginning, he's counting on us not sticking together. He was counting on the inability to keep NATO united. He was counting on us not to be able to bring in others on the side of Ukraine. He thought he could outlast us. I don't think he's thinking that right now. God knows what he's thinking, but I don't think he's thinking that. But he's just been plain wrong. Plain wrong. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room. We stand here together. Mr. President, I'm delighted to be able to repay your visit to our country. In Washington, not long ago you told the Congress, quote, "We have no fear, nor should anyone in the world have it," end of quote. You and all Ukrainians, Mr. President, remind the world every single day what the meaning of the word courage is. From all sectors of your economy, all walks of all life. It's astounding. Astounding. Remind us that freedom is priceless. It's worth fighting for, for as long as it takes, and that's how long we're going to be with you, Mr. President, for as long as it takes.
We'll do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's work. Go back a little bit.
I don't know. If you want.
Let's go.
Wait, we're just gonna give him 1 second. We're just gonna give him 1 second.
We will go.
Okay, folks. Okay, Ryan, wait, Ryan. Keep on. Hold 1 second. Wait.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Guys, you can move over there. Camera. Come on, picture with me. Right, let's get him in the car. Hold.
They're in the truck. I was supposed to get the things.
Средства убирайте на правую сторону, на правую сторону.
Everyone stay right.
Alright, this way. You can go wherever you want, but you please stay here.
Yep, let's just hold it for 1 second. Let's get him in the car. Hold.
They're in the truck. I was supposed to get the things.
Средства убирайте на правую сторону, на правую сторону.